सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया. That's it. But listen though.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा. इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Before we begin, my usual appeal, with my apologies to those of you who've already subscribed. I request you to take membership of ThePrint's YouTube channel, which costs only 159 rupees per month. Click on the join button to enjoy exclusive member benefits, which include loyalty badges, priority responses, and member-only videos. We are now also extending newsletters to our YouTube members. I request all YouTube members to write to us with their full name and email address to members@theprint.in, that's members@theprint.in, and we'll get back to you. From the high walls of Afghanistan's Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the portraits of the country's kings looked down on the journalists who trooped into Kabul after 9/11 in the weeks after the fall of the Taliban. There was just one painting taken from a photograph of King Amanullah Khan, which included the Queen. The artist, anthropologist Julie Below observed, had chosen to paint a traditional wedding veil over Queen Soraya Tarzi's face, flowing down to the floor. Late in August 1928, Queen Soraya had torn off her veil at a Loya Jirga, or grand assembly of tribal elders, after a speech where the king had declared Islam did not require women to cover their bodies or wear any special kind of clothing. Queen Soraya went on to set up the country's first schools and hospitals for women. The portrait represented the erasure of Queen Soraya's dramatic rebellion against tradition, a radicalism too deep for even the new Afghan Republic which emerged after 9/11. Earlier this week, the reborn Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan banned women from universities, the latest in a series of measures which mark the descent of an iron veil over Afghanistan. Girls have been banned from high schools, the United Nations says, and gender segregation rules are denying women access to work and even health care. Forced marriages, often to aging Taliban commanders, have become common. The Taliban had promised before taking power to allow the education of women to continue and vowed to guarantee the legal and human rights of every child, woman and man. Their failure to keep their word has led to loud condemnations in world capitals, including New Delhi. But the international community is offering Afghanistan's women little more than pieties. Even scholarships for women have been restricted in India and in many other countries. Women are half of society and they're disregarded. One woman told the researchers Roxana Shopor and Rama Mirzada, "How can a bird fly on only one wing?" Ever since the cleric Nida Muhammad Nadeem took charge as the Islamic Emirates Higher Education Minister in October, he began working to dismantle the last traces of Queen Soraya's legacy. Last month, the minister assailed Amanullah for, I quote, bringing debauchery and obscenity from foreign lands. Educating women, he argued, clashed with Islam and Afghan values. Following the decision to close college gates to women, Nadeem complained that students had worn dresses like they are going to a wedding ceremony. The higher education minister also argued against examination tests for Taliban candidates who were seeking jobs. A Taliban's true qualification, he insisted, was the number of bombs he had detonated. Like many of the most powerful figures in the Islamic Emirate, Nadeem is a member of a small circle of clerics from the southern Kandahar region, grouped around its Amir Hibatullah Akhundzada. The key figures in the group include Muhammad Khalid Haqqani, the head of the Ministry for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, the religious police responsible for enforcing theocratic norms, as well as Chief Justice Abdul Hakim Haqqani and Minister of Religious Affairs Noor Muhammad Saqib. Few details have emerged on Nadeem's own background, But the 1977 born cleric is thought to have run a seminary in Kandahar before joining the Taliban insurgency. Earlier, he served as regional governor for Nangarhar and Kabul. The hard line on educating women, some argue, is enmeshed with a power struggle within the Taliban. Rival factions have been using religion as an instrument to assert their legitimacy. Earlier this year, for example, Akhundzada ordered judges to rigorously enforce Sharia law punishments, including flogging and amputations, restituting the savagely coercive legal system which was used to subjugate women and the rest of the population before 9/11. Even earlier though, the Islamic Emirate had taken an ambiguous position on educating girls, notably by resiling on a promise to reopen high schools after a meeting of top leaders failed to arrive at a consensus. The previous minister, Abdul Baqi Haqqani, who was linked to the eastern Afghan networks of Taliban leader Sirajuddin Haqqani, had said women could continue to study at university but in gender segregated classrooms. Abdul Baqi, however, insisted formal education was less valuable than clerical instruction. Top Taliban leaders, among them Health Minister Qalandar Ebad, Deputy Foreign Minister Sher Mohammad Abbas Tanikzai and spokesperson Sohail Shaheen, sent their own daughters for higher education, casting it as an Islamic duty. But facing resentment against Taliban commanders enriched by power in Kabul in an increasingly poor country, the southern Afghanistan clerics responded by pushing the anti-modern values of their peasant constituency. Even after a democratic government had been reinstituted following 9/11, resistance against education for girls had remained widespread in swathes of rural Afghanistan. The United Nations noted last year that the number of girls in higher education increased from only 5,000 in 2001 to just about 90,000 in 2018. Teachers and students remain concentrated in urban areas. Entwined with class and tradition, the education of women has been a fraught political issue for over a century. King Abdur Rahman Khan, the founding patriarch of the modern Afghan state, who ruled from 1880 to 1901, believed women ought to remain subordinate to men. But he sought to eradicate some elements of institutionalized discrimination. Queen Soraya's father, the liberal journalist and diplomat Mahmoud Beg Tarzi, played a key role in pushing for reforms in education and marriage. The modernization effort challenged the power of tribal leaders, leading to the king's assassination in 1919. Following the murder, Queen Soraya and King Amanullah rose to rule the country. Their ambitious efforts at modern reforms, though, provoked a furious backlash. Encouraged by Imperial Britain, which saw King Amanullah as a threat, tribal rebellion was soon brewing against his efforts to end the veil, give women the right to choose their partners, and to proscribe polygamy. Images of the unveiled queen were circulated in Afghanistan's south, inciting anger among clerics and their followers. European experiences had led the royal couple to try and transform Afghanistan into a proper constitutional monarchy with an elected assembly and a secular judiciary. The most significant of their decisions was to make education compulsory for both genders and set up co-educational schools. Though the reforms did little to change the lives of women outside Kabul, the scholar Huma Ahmad Ghosh writes, they constituted a powerful threat to the traditional order. The Loya Jirga or Grand Assembly of Elders finally rebelled in 1928, incensed by King Amanullah's decision to raise the age of marriage to 18 for women and 21 for men. King Amanullah rolled back his plans in the face of the defiance, but it was too late. The king and the queen would be forced into exile just 10 years after they took power. Empowering women continued to be a central motif of Afghan modernization, however. Though King Zahir Shah moved cautiously through his long reign from 1933 to 1973, he also saw empowering women as part of a wider political effort to break the hold of the reactionary mullahs over rural society. Women teachers, nurses, and doctors began emerging from Afghan educational institutions in the 1940s. Kabul University founded faculties of medicine, sciences, and the humanities for women, in addition to separate institutions for men. Following a coup in 1973, Zahir Shah was deposed by his cousin Daud Khan, who set up a one-party republic. The new republic dramatically expanded education for girls. Leaders supported by Pakistan like Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, Ahmad Shah Massoud and Burhanuddin Rabbani made the issue a centerpiece of their resistance to the regime. Kabul and other cities, the scholar below writes, were perceived to be the centers of sin and vice precisely because of the high visibility of educated, emancipated urban women. To many peasant women whose lives had gained little from the process of westernization, the idea that a licentious urban elite was threatening the family and the rural order was a seductive one. Fanaticism, moreover, flourished inside refugee camps in Pakistan. These camps grew dramatically after the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979. A decree issued by clerics in 1989, Valentin Moghadam recorded, ordered women, and I quote, not to walk in the middle of the street or swing their hips. They were not to talk, laugh or joke with strangers or foreigners. 1 year later, girls were barred from school. Women who protested, like the feminist Meena Keshwar Kamal, were simply assassinated. The Taliban institutionalized the values they had set up in their refugee camps when they captured power in 1996 with the help of Pakistan's ISI. A sliver of ankle showing, a gust of wind slightly revealing the face, a movement judged by somebody as provocative. Almost anything could be punished with a public beating. Following its Cold War triumph, the United States and its allies ceased to care. Today, the world is again uniting in showing it's willing to leave Afghan women to their fate. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm National Security Editor of ThePrint. Thank you for watching Security Code.